So I wanted to begin with a quick overview of anybody that's joining us that is newer or might not be as familiar with PEIMS. What is PEIMS? So PEIMS is the Public Education Information Management System, and that encompasses all the student data that is requested and received by the TEA about public education, which includes your student demographic and academic performance information. So all this data that is required and received by the TEA about your students can be entered through your Frontline platform. It can be edited accordingly in your Frontline platform. And we do want to stress that this data should be kept accurate, and it's important for your reporting purposes. And that's just a quick overview to what that is. We're going to begin by covering entering PEIMS data. And first, we're going to be looking at reviewing the PEIMS data screen. We will then go into reviewing your PEIMS validation, and Tiffany also has some troubleshooting tips for you as you go through your PEIMS data information. So at this point, I'm actually going to stop sharing, and I'm going to let Tiffany take over for our live demo of PEIMS data.
All right, let me go ahead. It says I'm disabled now, so just go ahead and give me the ability to share. It let me before.
Okay,
there we go. Thank you. Yep, I got it. Okay. Hi, everybody. All right, so in just a second, you should see my screen. Excellent. All right, so PEIMS data is actually in all of our applications. We are focusing on ARD today. So in order to get to the PEIMS data screen, you're going to go Special Education, ARD Forms. You're going to select your student, and then, of course, answer your FERPA. So the PEIMS data screen is going to be towards the top. Mine just happens to be 5. You know that the screen numbers change just depending on what you have access to, but it's going to be in this first group of screens. When you come to the screen, you got to look at it as a data collection screen. This is not a screen you enter information on. This is just a collection of the dates that are entered throughout the ARD. So if you're going through the ARD screen by screen, you're going to hit all the PEIMS elements regardless. But if you want to just jump to a PEIMS element and enter it just one off, you can actually click on the entry screen arrow, and that will take you right to the screen that the element is on. Now, in order to find a PEIMS element, they all look the same. They all actually have this little piece of paper with a pencil, kind of diagonal, and it'll say edit, and then whatever the name of the PEIMS element is. So you just go ahead and click on the word edit, and then you have the ability to fill in whatever the PEIMS element is, and then the effective date. Effective dates, this is really up to you in the district. Some districts will change the effective date every ARD, but they're always going to be the ARD date. Some districts will only change effective date if there was a change. So if they've been, SLD for the last 4 years, you may have, a date in here 4 years ago. Other districts may update it every ARD. That's completely up to you and your district how you handle that. By using that little arrow to jump to the screen, I can always jump right back to the PEIMS data screen by clicking this return button at the top. This will appear when you're doing this kind of work. It's typically not there if you're just going through the ARD screen by screen. See how it disappeared? But as soon as I use it to jump somewhere, then it pops right up for me. Most of your PEIMS elements are located, but really the good majority of them are actually located on your placement of services screen. So I like to use this screen as an example just so you can see, how many there are. We've got here, one here, one here, one here, one here. You should really be addressing all of them, okay? So even if the answer is no, they're not early childhood or they don't have regional day school, you should still address them because they can't just be left blank. So you want to make sure that you're addressing everything that you've got. Once you've gone through your ARD and you've entered all of the PEIMS data, in order to make sure that you've entered everything, you've caught them all, and 2, you don't have any inconsistencies, that brings us to the Validate PEIMS button. Validate PEIMS is basically just saying, what errors do you have? What is not consistent, what doesn't make sense, or what fields did you skip? So I'm going to go ahead and click on Validate PEIMS. I already see I have some errors. Now, when you click Validate PEIMS, don't be scared by this pop-up. It looks like a lot of information, and we'll get support tickets saying, I don't know what any of this means with the code 41163. Don't panic. If you just read the error condition, you can pretty much figure out what you're missing and what it's telling you. So, let's just use the first one as an example. If a student is age 3 or more, which the student, if I look up here, is 10, okay? So if the student is age 3 or more, the ECI code must be no. Well, okay, what does my ECI code say right now? It says yes. So there's an inconsistency. There's no way the student can be ECI yes if they're 10. So you need to make sure you clear up your errors or you're not going to be able to continue. So I'm going to go to my little entry screen button, jump to my screen, find my ECI code, and I'm going to change that to, oh, wait, wrong one, sorry. Let's see. So they're going to be no as of 7/8, save. And then I've got my early childhood, here's my other one, ECI, no, save. Now, when I go back and I click return to jump me back to my PEIMS page, my errors are now down to 3. So there were a bunch of errors in there, all concerning that whole ECI issue. So now that I've done that, I only have 3. And these are pretty easy. It looks like I've not done my speech indicator code. I skipped it entirely, it's blank. And I have the same for assistive technology, and I don't have a grade on the student. So again, it's telling you exactly what you need to fix before you complete the art. There are different severities of PEIMS errors. If it's an F, that means fatal. That means you must address it. There's no way around it. You won't be able to continue. Then there's a severity of SW, which is special warning. And special warning is those things that are really, we're just drawing your attention to it. So as an example, and I don't have one on the screen, but as an example, if you have a student who's got 4 disabilities and the 4th one is speech, sometimes, our system won't read because it obviously doesn't have the 4th one on the screen. So if your 4th is speech and your speech indicator code is yes, you're going to get a special warning just saying, hey, just making sure that you know what's going on. All right. I see we had a question come in. I didn't know. Let me see.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to. I'm not going to know the answer, but I'm going to.
Oh, yeah. I was going to bring this up later, so that's cool. Beth, do you know if next year we will still leave the dyslexia codes blank and not get an error? I am all over that to have that ready by the start of school. I'm doing my best. Beth is referring to the new dyslexia additions. Right now, they do not trigger any kind of PEIMS error. So if you left them all blank, it's not going to catch it. If there's inconsistencies where you say they're not eligible for dyslexia, but then you say that they're getting instruction for it, it's not picking it up. So I did just push that through last week that this is a must-have for the beginning of school. And I appreciate everybody's patience through last year. But yeah, so I'm very, very hopeful. I kind of feel like we need to have it done. Okay. So, let me just make sure that there's nothing. Okay, great. All right, so that's the basics of just entering PEIMS data and validating PEIMS, which is really just correcting your errors. I do want to draw attention to one more area that you might see, and that has to do with SPED status. So your district can set students to be validated for PEIMS based on their SPED status. So right now I've got currently served and I validate PEIMS. I can click it, I can find my errors, it all works out. But if I switch this over to archive only, just another random SPED status, I get this message. District eStar Administrator is the active PEIMS validation for this record. That's a big chunk of info. All this is saying is that for this SPED status, we're not going to check for errors. And there's numerous reasons why your district might set that up. Dismissed and withdrawn are definitely ones. So if you're doing an ARD where a student is being dismissed from special ed, obviously they're not going to have a primary disability. So you don't want to look for PEIMS errors. So if you see this here, like let's say you're on your PEIMS page and you're like, okay, Tiffany said to now go ahead and do my PEIMS checking, and this is what you've got, it has to do with your SPED status.